I mentioned cultural baggage during our discussion regarding the Fianna. There are few tribes so saddled with cultural baggage as this sorry group of morons. Oh, and morons they are, for their incessant wars that do little more than reduce their already thin numbers. The Get of Fenris are terrifying opponents to behold. I have witnessed many an employee lose the contents of his bowel at the sight of one of these beasts, just prior to losing the contents of his chest cavity to the claws of one of them. But their unrelenting, unending rage can be a boon to us and a curse to them, perhaps more so than any tribe. Yes, cultural baggage. They subscribe heavily to the ideas of lineage, of heritage, of ancestral memory. So many of these Fenrir believe themselves to be descended from warriors of Norse legend, Vikings, Gothic sometimes, Aryans, yes, the Aryans. During the Second World War there was one Fenrir that styled himself as the Werewolves Mensch or something similar. Now, contrary to popular opinion, I was not involved in that little conflict during the mid-20th century. However, the Werewolves Mensch and his pack, or should I say camp, situated in Austria, if I recall from my records, they subscribed wholly to the Third Reich's idea of racial purity. They believed it had something to do with their werewolf genes, shall we say. And so they also believed that the SS must have been right regarding Untermensch, that they, Untermensch, were worm-tainted. I think perhaps they had it the wrong way round. Not that I would associate with such villainous elements. Some things are just done in poor taste. Needless to say, the Werewolves Mensch was last seen by myself dancing a rather dark-coloured spiral. Not all of the Get of Fenris are so foolish. They have generals and warlords, tacticians that are supreme among their kind. They know how to coordinate a battle. They know how to sacrifice their young to achieve a necessary victory. They're very keen on doing so. It is a Get of Fenris custom to throw their pups into the breach, the fiery meat grinder that we provide, and if they should survive to see the other side, covered in scars and who knows what, then maybe, just maybe, they will be accepted by the tribe. Of course, more often than not, they throw their pups at us and they die horrible, horrible deaths if we do not coax them down into some worm pit and spit them out as something a bit more useful to our aims. But while that's all going on, the tacticians, the generals, the warlords, they're sneaking around behind us, waiting to ass-fuck us with their claws. Yes, they are of great mind, pragmatic perhaps, prepared to sacrifice what needs to be sacrificed, but they do not have a long-term view. Whilst they have this survival of the fittest attitude, they seem to be intrinsically unaware that their numbers are already low. That works to our advantage, of course. The tribe itself is largely meritocratic. They put a great deal of importance on those that survive great adversity. Sometimes they will send their young or their champions seeking honour, glory, renown, call it what you will, down into the pits of Malpheus. Oh, yes, I have been to Malpheus before, I may have mentioned. I have heard tell of Get of Fenris being sent there in order to test themselves, but more accurately, they are sent there by a leader, by a chieftain, because it is a duty of great honour to take that plunge. I believe the Black Spiral Dancers took a similar one. Now you could say, surely that is stupid on the part of the Fenrir. Surely they would not sacrifice their own number by sending them into a suicidal locale such as Malpheus, from which they stand very little chance of returning. You would be right, except not on the stupid part. You see, the Get of Fenris are highly political. They may not seem it. They're certainly not so political among other tribes, but among their own, they will do anything they can to stand on top of the pile, even if it means sending their peers to unwinnable situations, such as the plane of the worm. While they use their pups as such, and whilst other tribes use them as cannon fodder, I would be lying if I said that their tactics weren't effective. They do more damage to us on the field than perhaps any other tribe. Should not be a laughing matter. And indeed I know that their greatest threat is their rivalry with other tribes that does not stem from them wanting to be top dog as such. This comes from their wanting to be the strongest of the strong. They will take cairns from other packs, members of the Get of Fenris, by force. And those that do not answer an insult with physical rebuke, I could probably count on one hand. They are all too easy to lash out, and so they make enemies among their peers. That can be worked to our advantage, but you will rarely find the Get of Fenris that is easily manipulated in the ways that we prefer. Better to rely on their own uncontrollable rage to do the job for us. Oh, and how they love their battle scars, you know, whether it's scarred from another lupine or scarred from one of our own little experiments, they will bear those marks proudly. Such a proud warrior culture that the Get of Fenris hold. Do any tribes truly seem so barbaric as this one? You could almost be mistaken into thinking they're trying to compensate for something, perhaps past wrongs, maybe? And they committed many. Their moves into the Americas, their annihilation of many of what they consider the pure ones. They performed similar actions in Africa and in Australia, all due to their cultural baggage. They have to assert themselves. They have to be alpha, no matter what the situation may be. The Get of Fenris Arun is, as I pointed out earlier, utterly horrifying, even to one such as myself. And yet, that Arun will likely try to assert his dominance in a political situation, in a situation where they merely wish to clutch around a fire and tell tales of victories and lament defeats. That Arun will charge through the Umbra thinking that he is best suited to the role. Again, not to imply they're all thick-headed, but what I do imply is they have some major pride issues that they just cannot get away from. And so you ask me, and the reason you come here is, how do I defeat the Fenrir? How is it that I take them on? My simple answer is to try not to do so. I know that's not what you want to hear, but these creatures are relentless. Once they pick up your scent, you should run, you should hide, or you should bury yourself beneath the soil if that option is available to you. Outlast them. The Get of Fenris do not forget. They hold terrible grudges, as many employees of Pentex have discovered. One of our former directors, Robert Allred, was kinfolk to a Get of Fenris. He bribed his way onto the board, spent half his life looking over his shoulder, thinking that his family were going to come calling for him. That's no way to live. Allred brought with him a certain amount of information that was highly valuable to Pentex at the time, allowed us to combat tribes such as the Fenrir for many a year. It is a shame what happened to him. Still, Allred left some notes for us. Little ditty that he passed around at a board meeting once. We all presumed it to be a joke. You may have seen me glancing down. It is at this. Allred writes, options when facing the Get. Put civilians in the way, and this is number one. Number one, put civilians in the way and hope they realise who they're killing. During their hesitation, empty a clip of silver bullets into their face. Option 2. Slow them down with corrosive and explosive furmori. While they pick the chunks from their fur, empty a clip of silver bullets into their face. Option 3. Trigger devastation such as an explosion of an oil refinery or a meltdown at a power plant. As they weigh up whether to save Gaia or rend you limb from limb, empty a clip of silver bullets into their face. Option 4. If none of the above options are available and the Get of Fenris are at your door, turn gun on self, only one bullet required. Poor Allred. There came a time when he stopped looking over his shoulder. There is a clip waiting for you on the way out, on that filing cabinet over there. It contains silver bullets. One is missing, however.